Hi folks, welcome to my channel. This is the budget photographer, where photography doesn't have to break your bank. So recently, as I was browsing Costco website, I saw this camera. This is the Minolta MN26Z with a massive 26x optical zoom. It's sold for just $249.99. It's a fairly low price. Is this a hidden gem or is it a bust? Today, in this very detailed review, we're going to find out. In the interest of transparency, I bought this camera with my own money. I'm not affiliated with Minolta, Costco, or any other brand mentioned in this review. This is a totally independent review. Let's start with the physical of the camera. Picking it up, the build quality is surprisingly decent. It feels solid, not hollow or cheap. The matte plastic finish is actually quite pleasant for the touch. In my opinion, it's nicer than the finish on more expensive cameras. In terms of ergonomics, the camera shines. It features a very deep and comfortable grip that allows for secure hold, which is crucial for a camera with this much zoom. At just 430 grams, it is lightweight and won't be burdened to carry around. The MN26Z is powered by 4 AA batteries. This is a huge plus for accessibility since you can find replacement batteries virtually anywhere in the world, which is great for travel. Battery life seems decent enough for a day of casual shooting. Now for the main attraction. This camera has a 26 times zoom, going from 24mm on the wide angle all the way to 624mm. It's important to note that the zoom mechanism is not smooth or continuous. It moves in very noticeable steps, which can be jarring when you are trying to frame your shot precisely. Here is our first major design quirk. The ring around the lens barrel looks exactly like a manual focus ring. It's not. It's a completely cosmetic piece of plastic that does not turn or do anything. There is zero manual focus capability on this camera. No, not even the AI was able to find manual focus in its menu. When it comes to connectivity, the camera is extremely basic. You get a micro USB port for charging and data transfer. That's it. There is no micro HDMI port for connecting to an external display, and disappointingly, no microphone jack. In my opinion, this is a huge missed opportunity as a 1/2.3-inch sensor would have made a great webcam if it has HDMI output. The camera's rear display is a fixed 3-inch LCD screen. It does not tilt or articulate, which can make composing shots at very high or low angles challenging. Furthermore, the viewing angles are quite poor. The colors and contrast shift dramatically when you are not looking at it head-on. Rounding out the physical tour, there are a few other notable omissions. Despite the hump on the top, there is no electronic viewfinder. There is no hot shoe for attaching an external flash. You can only trigger external flash with the optical trigger on the flash, but I have not had luck with it, probably due to the latency of the shutter. And finally, there is no filter thread in the front of the lens, which limits the ability to screw on filters like polarizers or NDs. Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty details of the image quality, let's take a look at what this camera can do. Here are some photos taken with this camera. Now let's analyze the image quality. Starting at wide end, which is a 24mm equivalent. I was actually a bit impressed here. Compared to my Pixel 8 Pro, the Minolta's wide-angle shots are cleaner. However, if I switch the Pixel to the 50-megapixel mode, the phone's center sharpness pulls ahead, though the Minolta still holds an edge on the corner sharpness. Of course, the real reason to consider the camera is its telephoto reach. At the maximum 600mm equivalent, the Minolta easily outperforms the smartphone. My Pixel 8 Pro's optical zoom stops at 120mm, and any digital zoom beyond this is a mess. The Minolta provides significantly more detail at a distance. And if you're willing to put some extra work, you can really max out the 600mm lens. This photo of the moon was created by taking multiple shots and stacking them in post-processing to reduce noise and increase detail. It shows that the lens itself is capable of resolving distant subjects, provided you use advanced techniques. Lens flare is not good. Pointing the camera to the sun, and you get this really dominant and distracting flare and ghosting. So avoid any strong light source when you're using this camera. The biggest weakness in image quality is the dynamic range. In this photo of a black Phoebe, I followed my habit of exposing for the highlights. When I tried to lift the shadows in post-processing, the detail in the chat was completely lost to noise. This weakness extends to any kind of low-light situation. This photo of a squirrel is in the shade, which wasn't a particularly dark scene, already shows a significant amount of noise and loss of the detail in the fur. This camera needs a lot of light to perform its best. The poor dynamic range is made worse by the fact that this camera does not shoot in RAW format. Despite what some websites might claim, it's not really mentioned in the camera's owner's manual. You are stuck with compressed JPEGs, which gives you very little flexibility for post-processing. To help with that long zoom, the camera features optical image stabilization. It does an okay job stabilizing the jitters, but it's not really the best system I've ever used. For photos, I found I could get acceptably sharp results by hand-holding it at 1/13 of a second, at a full 600mm zoom. Aperture control on this camera is incredibly basic. At any focal length, you essentially get only two settings, the maximum aperture and the minimum. For example, at wide angle, you only get f3.7 and f11, with no intermediate values. It does show a difference in the depth of field when I close the aperture, indicating potentially some kind of iris mechanism is present. The camera does include a dedicated macro mode for close-up focusing, especially at a wide angle setting. However, its magnification capability is noticeably worse than what you can get with a modern smartphone, like the Pixel 8 Pro. It's also worth noting that the lens can cast shadow in a macro shot. Alright, that's a lot of information about image quality, and I still have a lot to say about the usability of this camera. But before we dive into that, I would like to take the time to mention that making such a review is incredibly challenging for me. It took me several weeks of testing to get used to this camera. My goal is to create a very detailed, no-nonsense review so that you can make an informed decision when purchasing this camera. If you are getting value from this deep dive, the single best way to support this channel is to hit the subscribe button and also like this video. It's free and it truly makes a huge difference. Okay, thank you for your time, and let's continue. Now let's talk about performance, and this is where the camera really struggles. The autofocus speed is, by any modern standard, slow. It frequently hunts back and forth before locking onto a subject. Your autofocus mode selection is also limited. You can choose a single central zone, a multi-zone system, or face detection. While it does have face detection, there is no eye detection, and you cannot even disable the face detection feature, which can be annoying. The continuous autofocus is implemented, in my opinion, a very strange way. On most cameras, it constantly refocuses while you hot press the shutter. On Minolta, it seems to only focus before you press the shutter button. The moment you half press, the focus locks. This makes it very hard to track moving subjects. Again, I consulted the menu, but I cannot find more information about the continuous autofocus mode. If you know better about it, please comment down below. The camera also offers an object tracking mode, but in my testing, it struggles to keep up with even slow and predictable camera movements. It quickly loses the subject. The burst shooting mode is also very limited. buffer is incredibly small. I can only capture 7 frames before the camera completely locked up and became unresponsive for several seconds. And to make matters worse, after the buffer is cleared, it actually stopped shooting, despite I'm still holding down the shutter button. There is a noticeable delay between pressing the shutter button and the image is actually being captured. That actually caused me to miss some shots. Using this camera day to day can be very challenging. The manual system is a prime example. You use up and down button to select items, and left right to immediately change the setting. This is very error prone. I accidentally bumped the right arrow and shot an entire series of photos at a tiny 640 by 480 resolution. When you are zoomed in on the subject and press the playback button to review your shot, the lens completely retracts. This destroys your composition and forcing you to zoom all the way back if you want to take a similar shot. This can cause some frustration in the field. As I mentioned earlier, the SD card is in the battery compartment, and this camera is powered by 4 AA batteries, which means there is contact on the battery door. The moment you open that door to swap a card, the camera instantly powers off. It's a small thing, but it's inconvenient. Making quick exposure adjustment is a core part of photography, but the MN26Z makes it really hard. The exposure compensation setting requires multiple button press to access it, making on-the-fly adjustments impractical. The auto ISO function also has a strange limitation. While the camera's maximum selectable ISO is 3200, the auto ISO mode will only go up to a maximum of ISO 800. This limits the camera's usefulness in low light when shooting in auto ISO. Also, you lose any kind of exposure preview in auto ISO mode. For other cameras, when the range is outside the auto ISO can adjust, your preview on the screen can go brighter or darker to give you a feeling of the exposure. However, for this camera, the preview stays constant, and only after you've taken the photo, you see, oops, it's underexposed. While the camera supports custom white balance with manual Kelvin input, the implementation is somewhat strange. The Kelvin values jump in massive steps of 1500K to 2000K, which is far too coarse for any kind of fine-tuning. And here's a final annoyance you only discover once you import the photos to your computer. The camera fails to write orientation metadata to its JPEG files. In plain English, this means every photo you shoot vertically in portrait orientation will show up sideways as a landscape image on your computer's file browser. You have to manually rotate every single one, which is incredibly tedious if you've taken a lot of portrait shots. In my opinion, this is unforgivable for a camera in 2025. So, after all the limitations, can you still get some meaningful shots? Yes, if you really put the effort into it, and with good luck and light. So here is another set of photos I've taken with this camera. Enjoy! A quick word on video. This camera can shoot video, but your controls are extremely limited. Most critically, you are stuck on auto white balance with no option to set it manually. The camera's primary video mode caps at 1080p resolution at 30 frames per second. Here is a sample clip of an animal to give you an idea of a general quality, followed by a clip of a highway at 600mm zoom. The camera also offers a high-speed 120 frames per second slow motion mode, but it comes with some heavy compromises. First, the resolution drops to a very low standard definition DVD quality, that is 640 by 480. Second, recording is limited to just 30 seconds at a time. It can be fun, but the quality is a significant step down. Finally, the camera includes a built-in time-lapse function. You can set it to take one photo at the interval of every 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. And it will keep shooting until you press the shutter or the battery dies. On a positive note, the camera does adjust exposure between frames, which is great for capturing scenes with changing light, like the sunset. And here is a sample time-lapse to show you what the camera can do. So let's bring it all together. Is the MN26Z worth the price? Well, let's break it down into two parts. First, at this price, you cannot really get any bridge cameras new. It just doesn't happen. On the other hand, if your budget is around $250, I feel every dime would need to count. And that's where I come to question the value of this camera. It has way too many compromises. If that super zoom reach is your top priority, I highly recommend looking for a used Panasonic FZ80. A good one often sells between $200–300 online and offers a far superior feature set and user experience. If you can live without extreme zoom, your options get even better. Canon sells refurbished Rebel T7 at $250 when it's on sale. This will give you vastly superior image quality, raw shooting capabilities, and interchangeable lens system for future growth. That's my deep dive on the Minolta MN26Z. Have you used similar cameras? Please comment down below. If you found this detailed review helpful and useful, would you please subscribe and thumb up? This is Budget Photographer and I'm Bruce, and see you in the next video.